Hey everybody. So we're going to look at the navigation wheel in Revit 2020 and then a new update with the fly command that you can access in a perspective view. It's a really cool command for navigating the model. Um, Currently, at least with my Revit 2020, it's not working all the way, but I will jump out and show you a link so you can see it, the full use of that tool. But I will show you how to access it, and hopefully maybe it'll work for you. So right now we're in a Revit advanced sample model, the architectural one, and I think in this one I do have the MEPs in there. I'm in a floor plan, but we're going to be jumping to a 3D view. So up here, I'll just click on 3D. And in this 3D view, we can access this tool. But just to show you, I'm going to switch this to a perspective view. And you'll see the new fly command come up here. Now, for now, we're just going to focus on this tool and just how to use it. So this is one of the options for the navigation wheel. And if you do happen to, and I think this is important, you come up here and you click that X and you close it out. It might be a little difficult to find out where that is and how to actually turn it back on. But if you go to the View tab and then User Interface, you can find the navigation bar here. So click on that and it'll come right back. Another thing is if you accidentally right-click and then remove that, you can see that also is a problem because you can't really go to User Interface. But there is this tiny little drop-down. If you click on that, you can turn it back on. You also have a number of other options as well. So like docking position, the opacity of it. So just check those out and kind of fool around with them if you want certain things to be off, like zoom, or if you don't want the steering wheel. Next example, we do want that. Also, if you drop this little arrow down, you'll find that there's other navigation wheels. Check them out and see what works for you. We're just going to mainly focus on this full navigation wheel. And then one more option is this drop-down arrow, and this will allow you to do a number of things. I'm only going to be looking at one option, which I think is the most important, but when we get to that, we'll take a look. So in this navigation wheel, we have zoom, orbit, pan, rewind, walk, center, look, up, down. We can start with this pan, which is pretty obvious. If you click that, you can pan around. Just use your left mouse button, click it, and then just move the mouse around. The next one's rewind. Actually, we'll do orbit. So you'll see that little pivot point there. And if you do control, you can shift that pivot point around. So you can move that anywhere you want, and then from there, pivot around that. The next one is the zoom, which again is pretty straightforward. And you will have that pivot, and that's kind of where it's zooming in. You can do, for that one, I think it depends on where your mouse is at that specific point when you click the zoom button. So if we're here, that pivot point is going to be right there where my mouse was when I click that zoom button. That one you can't necessarily move or shift around, but it all depends on where you actually have that navigation wheel and when you press the zoom button. Next one's rewind, and that one's kind of cool. So you can rewind your steps. So after you click that button, you can kind of drag this along these different images, and it'll take you back to a certain, you can go all the way back to the beginning of a tool. And you may want to do this if you had a perspective and you mess it up. So like say you have this view here and we're zoomed in and you want to render this out and you accidentally maybe orbit it. And as you can tell, you can't really click, you can't go back, you can't do Control Z. You can see here there's not really anything. This has to do with like modifying elements or something along those lines. and not necessarily, kind of orbiting um, a view. So if you do have a perspective that you want to render out, you accidentally shift it, you can easily get back by opening up your navigation wheel, going to rewind, and then rewinding it back. The other one, center. And what that's going to do is allow you to kind of choose a pivot point. And again, this is something that if you click on it, it kind of puts that pivot point to that location. But the other thing you can do is hold it, and then you can move it around. You don't have to press control for that one. And then from there, if you orbit, that's where it's going to orbit from. Up, down, it gives you that little up, down symbol. From there, you can kind of just pull up or down. And look, it's really nice when you're actually in the building. So the next command's walk, and when we get in there, we'll actually look around the space. But walk is probably my most favorite one. Now, currently, the way that it's set up is if you walk, and I think for this example, what I'm going to do is turn off that MEP model, and then let's turn off this site. We'll go back into that navigation wheel, and then we'll do the walk command. So what you can do with this is actually drag it up, and you can see the mouse starts back down at the bottom. So you can keep dragging this, and based off of that, it'll go faster or slower. Also, when you're in that command, you can do the up-down arrows, and they will. You can use the up-down arrows to go up or down, so as you see here, or you can use W or S. And as you see there, you can also click the addition symbol to speed up. So you can see that I've kind of made that go quite a bit faster. So now, barely moving that is making us go quite a bit faster through this building. So what I'm going to do is real quick go down into this building. Now I like this way for me. I think this works the best. So, by clicking S for down and then W for up, or the up arrow for up, or the down arrow for down, that works for me pretty well. But if that doesn't work for you and you want to be able to kind of based off of your direction of your camera, go in that, go that way, so it will go down. Like, for example, we're looking a little bit down in this perspective. With this setting on, it will actually go in that direction, so it will go down while going forward. To access that, you would just jump into this little drop-down arrow in the navigation wheel, go down to Options, and then from there, you can, go here to move parallel to ground plane. And if you check that, now you can see that it will go in that direction that it's facing. So if we straighten this out, so let's look around. So we'll look straight. So this one will move in that direction. I personally don't like that. I like using the W or S or up and down commands to help that out. But if that's something you like, that option is there. So when you do change the speed with the addition symbol, so you can keep clicking that, and it will speed it up quite a bit. And this part's a little bit confusing. So if you're in there, you can use that to speed it up. But then if you go into your options, this is actually your speed factor. So right now it's set to the slowest, but let's switch it and then see what happens from there. So we're still holding that speed. So we're gonna just click on a few things and kind of see what happens. We'll go back into the options and we're gonna turn off move parallel. And then we'll go back into the options. We'll speed this up all the way and just kind of see what happens. So it does speed it up quite a bit. And then we'll go back and then turn it all the way down. And you can see what happens here. It is incredibly slow now. And again, if we click that addition symbol, it will start to make that go faster. And by what I meant how it's confusing is you make that go faster, but then, by clicking the addition symbol, but in here in the speed factor, it doesn't actually change at all. But even after closing this command and then going back into it, it still keeps that speed addition. And it doesn't change until you go back into the navigation wheel, back into options, and then switch this around a little bit. After you switch this around a little bit, so we can see this is quite a bit faster. And then if we go back in there, oops. And then shift this down to none, we can see that it's back to being really slow. So, work with it. I would use the addition button for when you just, get it to where you're comfortable at and then leave it from there. But if you do want to change that, just go into the options, mess around with that a little bit, and then from there you can, tweak it and get it to where you want. Now, another way to speed it up and slow it down is to actually go into, what is it? Right up here, so increase walk speed. And currently, since it's at like 0.1, it's not going to decrease. But now we do have that option. And depending on where you're at, it increases and decreases at different levels. So here we can see it only went up by 0.2. But if you go all the way to 50, and then if we decrease that speed, it'll go down by 10. So we'll go back, options, and then we can see it went down by 10. So depending on where you're at is how it'll actually increase and decrease. But that is an option. You can just quickly click on that. So if you're used to like 50 and at a certain point you want to go to something a little bit slower, then you can just go to that option and decrease speed real quick. So we'll just go into this space, and then I just want to show you one more command, which is this look one. So you can see we're in this space. We can stand at a certain point, and then from there kind of pivot around that point, look around. If there were systems in here, we could see all those. MEP systems. We can look around and maybe get a good perspective to render from. We can do this to coordinate. And that's something I didn't mention is you may want to do this if you're trying to navigate the model. If you're navigating the model while you're designing or you're modeling some mechanical systems and you're trying to coordinate that, instead of creating a bunch of 3D views or a bunch of sections, you can use this navigation wheel to do that. You can navigate from one point to another to reduce the overall amount of views that you have. But what's cool also is that you can drag this 3D view off somewhere. So if we go over here and actually drag this off, we still have those commands, so we still can use these. So you can drag this off to another screen, have it over there, and then while you're modeling, you can just quickly kind of see what's going on with this walk tool and the other tools that are in there. All right, so I checked to see if I could get the fly command to work correctly, and it looks like I have. So there's a couple ways to access that fly command, and you must make sure that you're in a perspective view. Now, currently, that's what I'm in, but if it is orthographic, so if it's set to orthographic, just make sure to switch it to perspective. Now, I'm going to maximize this window so we can take a look. What's cool with this is you can, again, drag this over to another screen and then use it in this way. So there's a couple ways to access this tool. We can come over here and click on it, and then now it's activated and we can start using it. And then the other way is if we escape that, and then now we're back in this typical view. We can select on items. If you click the right mouse button, hold that down, and then now you can see that it's actually entered that command. You can see that over there. And from here, you can start flying around again. And this tool seems to be finicky for some reason. Like, I click this tool, so it's activated, but if I right click or even left click, and then I can pan around, look around the building, but if I try to go forward, it only goes forward a little bit, and then sometimes it stops, sometimes it gets stuck. You can also hold shift, and sometimes that helps it. So it's very confusing, and it seems like there's some bugs in the tool, but it's brand new, so maybe it'll get some updates pretty soon in one of the dot releases. But the way that I have found it to work the best is if you go into this perspective view, right click, and then just or actually escape. If you right click while you're in a perspective view, from there start flying. That seems to work pretty well. If you are finding this is if it's too fast or too slow for you, what you can do is actually go into the navigation wheel and then the drop down, and then go into the options, and from there you can speed this up or slow it down, and this will affect that fly command. So that's what I got for the navigation wheel. Hopefully you learned some new stuff. The impact of 3D views and sections and stuff, when you have a whole bunch, can be, really ineffective on a project. So by using this and leveraging it, hopefully it saves you time and, time spent navigating the model, opening the model and whatnot. So let me know if you have any questions or if I missed anything, and I appreciate you watching.